The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are reputable East Hull-based car specialists and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members. Hello and welcome to the Robin Pod Weekly, the fourth Robin Pod of the week, no less. Huge thanks to everyone who's tuned in and watched and listened to the Robin Pod so far this week. And we are bringing you yet another one as we preview Rovers Challenge Cup final encounter with the Warrington Wolves. Bazza, we've already had you on at the start of the week reviewing the St Helens game. We then caught with Matt Newsom, the BBC commentator, who's going to be actually calling the game tomorrow. Great insight from him. And then last night we caught up with Steve Till, former player Lee Seabury, and of course Nathan from Gerram side as we look back and forward to the Challenge Cup game tomorrow. Dave, thanks for joining us for the Robin Pod. Now, you're a Warrington Wolves fan, but you're a bit more than that, aren't you? Because you're the man behind Super League Raw. Now, some of our listeners, viewers may know that what that is already, but for those who don't, what is Super League Raw and what's it all about?
Right, so Super League Raw is a passionate community about rugby league, the game of rugby league. So we celebrate it. There's a lot of, the mainstream media don't celebrate our sport. If anything, they talk it down. They want to get into the politics and all the bad news around rugby league. We concentrate on the positives, which is, the tries, the athletes, the gladiators that put on the entertainment for us. We try and give them the platform that they deserve week in, week out, regardless of colour of shirt. Our team of the week is factually based as opposed to the Super League team of the week where you just think, did somebody just put the finger in the air and put this person in? So we do it properly, or we believe that we do, and we're getting quite a large following now. Last year we got 1.8 million interactions. We've already surpassed that after 6 months in 2025. So we're just growing all of the time. We come at it from a point of view of neutrality. And Bazza will back me up on that. When we present it, it's about the game of rugby league. We don't really go into. Well, I certainly don't. A couple of the other presenters probably show the colours, but I do it right down the line, and that's why we have a massive Hull KR following. We've got massive FC following, Lee following, and it's because we talk straight. We do it properly. So there's loads of shows. If people go onto our YouTube channel, we do the weekly live at 8:00 on a Tuesday. We do shows like the Captain's Run, which is the preview of the new round. We do the Final Whistle podcast, which Baz is on, where all the members get together and talk about the rounds. There's In the Sheds. There's loads of stuff. So if people are interested, get yourselves over to Super League Raw on YouTube. Go to our website, superleagueraw.com, and take a look. And I'm sure, as well as the Robin Pod, it will be a great addition to your viewers' weekly rugby league fix, mate.
I tell you what, Baz, what Dave was just saying there about the rugby league community and giving a voice to all supporters, reasonable debate, that's what we should be promoting. And in essence, that's what the Challenge Cup final is, isn't it? Yes, you've got the spectacle of the final, the two teams competing. Of course, we've got the 1895 Cup. We've got the Women's Cup final. We've also got the Schoolboys final, and also the great selling point, the main thing that really gains a lot of traction is the fact that it's an event for all of rugby league. And you'll see that tomorrow when you're on Wembley Way. You'll see a Batley shirt, you'll see a Bradford shirt, you'll see a Wyre shirt, you'll see a Rovers shirt, you'll see a Women's St Helens shirt, you'll see everything from all spectrums of rugby league. And that's why the Challenge Cup, for me, is such a unique occasion and experience, and it should be something that we celebrate and try and keep hold of rather than tarnish by moving it, changing it. Let's celebrate and let's keep it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And everything Dave said there is absolutely spot on. And platforms like Super League Raw, even the Robin Pod, this year, Johno, giving some of us fans the opportunity to come on your show and voice our opinion. It's what our game needs. And the thing with Wembley is the amount of people who suggesting maybe it should be moved, different location or whatever. Not a chance. It's where it should be. It's where it's pretty much always been, barring Cardiff. It's where it should stay. And our game of rugby league needs to be celebrated so much more than it is. We shouldn't be relying on the smaller platforms of like the Robin Pod or Super League Road. It needs promoting a lot more, because if you go to these finals, even the grand final, the Challenge Cup final, Magic Weekend, you see shirts there from teams that aren't even there. There's these fans there that are there to celebrate the game and enjoy a proper game of rugby league. And for me, that is exactly what it's about. So yeah, keep it at Wembley. And I think the only thing they've got wrong this year is in the order which they're playing the games. Personally, I'd have had the Challenge Cup final played as the last game, so then it doesn't look too bad in this stadium for the Featherstone and York game, and the women's game also, Wigan and Saints, because that's going to be a cracker. So the RFL have pretty much got it right. They've just got the order of the games a little bit wrong this year. If we'll want to be promoting full stadiums or near to capacity. So if they'd have had the Challenge Cup final at 5 o'clock, I dare say a lot of rugby league fans would have been in there from dinner to catch some of the women's game, probably get a good game out of the Featherstone and York, and it'll be nice for the players of them teams in the other cups to play in a stadium what's at least half capacity, and then getting ready for the big one at the end.
Yeah, Bazza, I mean, as we record this, we're a little over 24 hours until kickoff. How are you feeling at the moment?
I've been all right. Like I said to you on Monday, I woke up Saturday, I was feeling good, starting to believe, and being away in my lorry, plodding along, watching everything I can watch, and I felt all right, but I feel like now the time's really, really dragging. I just want it to come round, and I'm calm, but then I just get them horrible feelings because you'll see a clip on social media of what Mark Sneed's done for LFC, and it just brings you back to reality. Like, he could do that against us. So a little bit topsy-turvy, but overall I feel all right. I just want to get there now.
Yeah, Dave, one thing that we've always tried to do with the Robin Pod is get an opposition view. Maybe not so much this season, but in previous seasons, we've always tried to get opposition fans on. Obviously, it's Hull Kingston Rovers versus Warrington. Tell us about your love affair with Warrington, and then maybe your hopes and expectations heading into the game tomorrow.
Yeah, well, like everybody, you're introduced to rugby league probably by your granddad, and your dad and your family, and you make the pilgrimage to those wonderful old grounds that we all remember of a certain age. The kids have never had it so good, in terms of proper toilets, etc. We won't go there, but great memories, great memories at 𝗲𝗂𝗎𝗆, watching the game. The first ever game was Castleford. I'll never forget that game. Desi Drummond, who was my childhood hero on the wing. Graham Steadman played for Cass that day. I always remember, I think Desi actually poleaxed him at one point, which was bad for Graham, but great entertainment. And I was just hooked from there. Simple as that. And watched the game ever since. Through the bad times initially, and then the good. And I think it's interesting because I said this to, I can't remember if it was in private or one of the shows that we did. This is the thing about rugby league. Warrington tomorrow, for me, they've got a free hit. They've got a free hit here because every single conceivable stat and everybody who's got a rugby league brain says that KR are favourite, and rightly so. The brand of rugby that KR are playing at the moment is as good as anything that we've seen. I said this last night on our Final Whistle podcast with the members. This is the brand of rugby league that this KR team are playing is as good as Leeds in the Pomp, Wigan in the Pomp, Saints in the Pomp. The difference is they haven't won a trophy. If and when they win a trophy, I think this team has got the potential to be on the same pedestal of those eras, because you can see it. It's set up right. They've got great, a good pack, exciting outside backs. They're a wonderful rugby league side, and any fan who loves the game of rugby league has got to concede. Even our black and whites friends have got to concede that Hull KR at this moment in time are a phenomenal rugby league side. Phenomenal. And that's what makes this a bit easier for Warrington fans, in the fact that it's very reminiscent to 2019. When we went to Wembley in 2019, not a single Warrington fan thought we were beating Saints that day. You go with hope, but the head tells you we're probably going to come away losing this one. And the head tells you with this one, we're probably going to come away losing it. Yeah, the heart's still there, but your head tells you another thing. Your points for and your points against this season tell the story. You're averaging 8.5 against you a game. Now, that wins most rugby league games, by a street, especially when you're scoring like you are. So in some respects, Warrington have got a bit of a free hit. So I'm quite relaxed going because it can only get better. I expect KR to play well. I expect them to win. Unless the pressure of the occasion and, dare I say, your followers and your fans, because there is an expectation. You know, you can try and play it down as much as you want. KR fans expect them to win this game. There might be that little bit of, you know, where you get the butterflies and you don't want to think about it, you know, because it means so much to you. But every KR fan is going there genuinely thinking they're lifting the trophy tomorrow. And that will seep through to the players. Willie Peters has got a big job on to just keep the temperature down and just take as much pressure off those players as possible. Because I think they're going to go to Wembley feeling that weight of expectation. And it's how they handle that on the day. And I think for me, the biggest opponent that KR have got is between their own ears tomorrow. If they go and can replicate the rugby league they've been playing this year, they should win this game. They should win it. Simple as that. Even if Warrington played as well as they did against Leigh, KR at their best beat Warrington at this moment in time. So it's going to be fascinating. But of course, in 2019, we weren't expected to win. We mentioned in 1998, Sheffield weren't expected to win against Wigan. Catalan weren't expected to beat Warrington in 2018. So there's always that jeopardy. There's always a chance. But like I say, KR for me should win it. They are favourite to win it. I just hope from a neutral perspective and for our sport that it can be an exciting and a close game. Because when we've got games on the BBC, it's the best showcase we've got to sell this wonderful game of ours. So what I'm hoping is, regardless of who wins, I want it to be tight. I want it to be exciting. Yeah, we said not for it's not good for our mental health and well-being. But if it was another golden pointer, rugby league's the winner. It's the winner. That's going to create so much excitement. We couldn't.
That's what that's going to create.
Well, that's it. Yeah, exactly. In the stadium, that's torture. It's absolute torture for the play for the fans of the both teams. But we have got a responsibility as a sport, and we do. We know this is the greatest sport on earth. Nothing can rival rugby league. Nothing. The gladiators that go on that pitch are the greatest athletes in sport today. We know that. The world doesn't. So we have a responsibility when we're on national TV. This is why I'm praying tomorrow's a really good, entertaining game, because that's how you grow it. That's how you keep, those people who are just, channel flicking tomorrow and suddenly they come across the Challenge Cup final. What we want is for them to see that 2 or 3 minutes that gets their interest. This is interesting, isn't it? This is a bit of a game. And they stay on there. And there's that level of responsibility for me in a Challenge Cup final that we need to sell our sport really well. So I hope rugby league's the winner. Of course, I want Warrington to win. But I'm a realist. And there are ways Warrington can win, which we might move on to. But yeah, let's hope that rugby league's the winner tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, Bazza, you can't deny, and even the players have talked about it, Willie Peters has talked about it, Paul Lakin's talked about it. There is a pressure. There is a pressure to lift a trophy because everything that the club have done on the field and off it is geared towards us being sustainable, is generating income, is creating a bigger fan base. And you can do that, but eventually you need to seal a deal with silverware to then accelerate that expansion, that generation of new supporters. And it's sports. Silverware does accelerate that. So, but I think what we've got is a savvy fan base. I think we understand that where we're at. We're at not a crossroads, but we're at an important time because we've built over a relatively long time, the last four years, for instance, to get to this point. We've had the disappointment of 2023. We had the disappointment last season. But it seems like every time they've lost, a little bit like every time we've let a player go and brought someone else in it's bettered us. Everything's bettered us. And I just feel like at this moment in time, the playing squad and the coaching staff, the supporters, the off-field staff, it's all in one direction. Everything. And when you've got that energy, it's almost like it doesn't matter what Warrington do tomorrow. When you've got that connectivity, and there's sometimes in sport where, I don't know, Dave, you might have felt it, and Bazza, you might have felt it, where you just know they're going to win. You just feel like it's meant to be. I know we talked about though. That's why sport's so great, because even when it's meant to be, you can have your ass kicked, can't you? And it comes back and bites you in the bum, kind of thing. But I do, Bazza, think that we're on this journey, and this is the one where we finally do it, which is very Rovers like as a supporter to be saying that.
Yeah, no, you're right, Johno, and we should be doing it after everything that we've overcome and how we've progressed as a club, as a community. It's there for the taking. I loved what 𝗪𝗓𝗓 said when pressure is a privilege to us. So if they channel all that in the right way, ignore all the outside noise, just focus on themselves, there's no reason they can't get the job done. But rugby league, it's a funny old game, and I think like what people say about KR fans, this, that, and the other, but there is a large percentage of us KR fans who still have the old mentality of, you know, we're so close and we just tend to fall short. Like, I feel different to the grand final because I went to Old Trafford in hope more than anything, as more than other people. I'm going to Wembley, not with hope, but not with expectation, if that makes sense. But it's a tricky one. I think we can do it. I don't hope we can do it. So the mindset shifted a little bit there, but like Dave said,
I won't Bazza after the grand final with someone, because it was the attitude, and Rovers fans have had it for a long time, and no, it's no wonder we've had this sort of attitude because of what's happened over the last 20 odd years. About, well, as long as we go compete, as long as the lads make us proud, as long as they put the effort in as a supporter base, we're happy. And the point I was making, that after the grand final, with all the investment in the squad, the way the club has changed, effort's not enough now. Effort is your minimum. Making us proud is the minimum. It's then taking us to that next step. And that doesn't mean that you then criticise the players. And so if they don't do it, you know, you analyse it, we have a discussion about it, and, you know, we walk away going, you know, maybe not in agreement, but respecting what people think. But I just think, yeah, this is the expectation has been created by, not as supporters just wanting success, it's being created by the club as well in terms of what they've done. Dave, the squads have been announced. The squad for Warrington is very different to the one that faced Rovers a couple of weeks ago. Analyse it for me. What do you make of it?
I just had to smile at the expectations coming through the screen, boys. I just have to say that, you know, it was radiating from you both there. And before we get to that, Jono, you know, the interesting thing, and again, you talk about, I mean, I've big KR up, and Baz will tell you, I've big KR up all season. I think they're a wonderful rugby league team. But look at history, especially recent, other than the 80s when Wigan won everything for obvious reasons. Look at history. You know, when Leeds were dominant, yeah, they did not win Challenge Cups. They lost in Challenge Cup finals, but they won grand finals. Same with Saints. You know, if you look at your history of the Challenge Cup, and for me, you know, if KR by some miracle lose this tomorrow, perhaps they're a grand final winning team, not a Challenge Cup winning team, and that's something for the Robins fans to walk away thinking, because history tells you the team that wins the Challenge Cup, Warrington being case in point, go to grand finals and lose. So, you know, it's one of those. But back to the Warrington squad, I mean, look, Warrington have got a chance. I think Warrington have got a chance, because when you've got a player like Mark Sneyd on the pitch with his kicking game, especially tomorrow, because one thing that appears to have played a little bit into Warrington's hands is the weather. It's going to be very, very windy tomorrow, is what they're reporting at Wembley, up to 30 mile an hour. So, you know, when you've got a kick and a repertoire of kicks like Mark Sneyd has got, he's the best kicker on the field in play. Nobody can touch him. That's the one thing that Mark Sneyd has got going into this game. So if Warrington, first of all, Warrington got to get into good field position for him to put those bombs up and that variety of kicks. But if they do manage to have an arm wrestle with KR, and let's be fair, we were in the arm wrestle at the HJ. They were in the arm wrestle. It was only that last 15 minutes that, you know, 𝗪𝗂𝗋 starts to do what 𝗪𝗂𝗋 does, and the rest is history. So if Warrington can be in the arm wrestle and get territory, that then opens the door for Mark Sneyd. So that, I think, is one area. The other area that Warrington potentially, and it's only potentially, can win this is that, you know, there's been all this talk about George Williams. Should he play? Shouldn't he play? All that good stuff. The facts of the matter are these. With George Williams in the last 2 years, Warrington have won 71.4% of games. Without him, they've won 57.1%. That's a huge difference. That's why Williams has to play. Even if he's 90%, stats tell you Warrington are a different side with George Williams in it. And what that also does is it lifts Matt Duffy by 10%, because the telepathy between Williams and Duffy for the last 2 seasons has been exceptional. So for Warrington to win this game, we need the pack to be toe-to-toe. We need to get good field position to sneak and do his stuff, because if we've got good field position, one or two things is going to happen. Williams and Duffy are going to combine in good field area, or at the end of the set, we've got Mark Sneyd, who can put a tasty kick in, whether that be a grubber, whether that be in the air or a spiral bomb, whatever it may be. And the occasion of Wembley, you know, expect errors. It always happens. It happens in every grand final. You know, there's errors. There's always errors at fullback. Duffy will make some, I'm sure Broadbent will. So that's a little bit of an opportunity for Warrington. If none of that happens, if KR dominate, if they get into good field position, then for me, the only again could play into Warrington's hands. The danger for KR is the piece around this season. They've been very expansive, and it's been wonderful to watch. And we know that KR, when you do your analysis, they score a lot of tries from outside 40 metres. And the reason they do that is they like to get to the edges. They like to play a fast and free-flowing game. If the conditions are wet, slippery, that's a little gamble. Not a big one, but it's a little gamble. You know, do they be more conservative and just play the game down the middle, and at the end, when they're in good field position, go for expansion? Or do they do what they've always done this season, which is actually, no matter where we are, we think we can score? If they go with a second strategy, that could lead to errors, which gives good field position to Warrington. So that's one area, again, that could play into Warrington's hands. And the final thing, and I mean this as a rugby league fan, I've said this to Bazza in private, and I've said it on our podcast, and I genuinely mean this. Mikey Lewis is a phenomenal rugby league player. He could go back-to-back Man of Steel. He has been incredible. His stats are ridiculous. But tomorrow is a real challenge, and it's for Mikey Lewis now to stand up and show that he's a big game player. Because if he goes into this game with emotion, because it means so much to him. We've seen that when he did his debut for England. He almost got teared up when he taught Challenge Cup with Johno Bucks last week after the game, when they turned the attention to the Challenge Cup. If Mikey can channel all of that emotion and energy in the right way, he'll probably walk away with a Lance Todd trophy, and he'll probably, you know, have a wonderful day. And let's be fair, he has got that tendency to be on the right side of wrong. He's always, and that's what makes him so good. You know, you see this in all sports. The best players have a degree of arrogance, have a degree of grubbiness about them. They just have that. You know, you go through history, Paul Gascoigne, footballers, a case in point, Roy Keane. You know, you can go through so many footballers. Same with rugby league players, you know, Sean Long, Bobby Goulding, you know, Edwards. You know, all of these players had a bit. Mikey's got that. That's what makes him such a good player. You can't beat that out of him. But there is always that risk that at some point in the game, he's just going to take it a little bit too far. And I hope for Mikey and for rugby league that doesn't happen. Because if that did happen to Mikey, because he's the type of lad he is, and I love the lad, I love the fact that he cares and loves our sport as much as he does, you do question what's certainly the short to medium term effect this season that's going to have on him. And not just that, we've got the Ashes series at the end of the season as well. So for me, I just hope that Mikey shows his best tomorrow. And if Warrington are going to win it, I'd rather Warrington win it going toe-to-toe and beating a team on there that were playing well than to win it because of a moment of madness or something silly. So I just hope and pray we see the best of Mikey Lewis tomorrow. That's the only way Warrington, though all of that combined, they're Warrington's best chances of winning it. If KR play a usual brand of rugby league, then they'll huff and they'll puff with Warrington, but I don't think they'll blow the Robins house down.
Well, Bazza, I mean, if you look at the squad for Rovers, you know, we talked about George Williams come back. The big talk as well, isn't it, about Mickey McAlorum, who's maybe made a remarkable recovery from his torn bicep. There's a reason why Willie Peters brought in Mickey McAlorum. There's a reason why he brought in Jared Waerea-Hargreaves. These are the big game players. These are the players they didn't bring him into 𝗂𝗂𝗏𝗲𝗄 beat Wakefield and Castleford. They brought him in 𝗂𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏 beat Warrington in Super League in Challenge Cup finals. They brought them players in 𝗂𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏's win grand final to get us over that line, that hurdle that we've not been able to get over. And that's why I think there's a big play for 𝗪𝗂𝗏𝗏 now to play in the final. And I don't know what you think, Bazza. I reckon he's literally in there to do a 20, 25-minute job to literally the intensity that Rovers want to play with in their opening 25 minutes is what should win the game for us. It is a gamble, though, isn't it? Because best laid plans and all that, it might not always pan out the way Willie Peters hopes it does.
It is a gamble, Johno, and it can go one or two ways, because I was one of many KR fans who was upset in 2022 when Tony Smith played Kane Lynette. Kane Lynette lasted 4 minutes. Biggest mistake ever. Now, Mickey Mack is a different sort of professional to Kane Lynette, and that is no disrespect to Kane Lynette. Mickey Mack will only do what Mickey Mack can do. For me, even like Dave alluded to with George Williams earlier, if Mickey Mack's 80-90% fit and he knows he can do a 15-20 minute stint, that's all we want from him. That's all we've been getting from him when he has been, and it's his presence. That front row is frightening with Jesse So, JWH, and Mickey Mack in the middle. It's quite intimidating. So if Mickey Mack's good enough to play 15-20 minutes and we don't see him for the rest of the game, I'm more than happy with that, just to soften up the Warrington forwards, because Paul Vaughan in that semi-final was like a man possessed. So if he comes out firing like that again, we're going to need some toughness to bring Paul Vaughan down a peg or two and just knock the wind out of him a little bit. So it is a gamble, but Willie Peters never lets the player make the choice. Willie Peters always puts it down to his staff. So if
I think there's certain players though in that side, and it was a little bit like Ryan Hall last year with Rovers, where they don't dictate whether they're playing, but they have a big say that Willie Peters trusts them, that if they say that they are ready to go, they are straight in that team.
Well, if it don't work out, if Mickey Mack comes on, does 10 minutes and he can't go on no more, it's not the end of the world, because Jez Litton's been playing some massive minutes this year, and Willie Peters alluded to saying he's slowly working towards that 80-minute hooker. So I'm more than comfortable with Jez coming on. The only thing is, we lose an interchange, we lose a man off the bench. But if you look at Rovers recently, we haven't used our interchanges, and we're bringing players on with 5-10 minutes left. So the players that have been on the field have been playing massive minutes. Now, if you flip to Warrington, they've got Sam Powell at hooker, who's a very, very good player, quite aggressive. They ain't got an interchange at 9. So we're fortunate that we have. So I think it's definitely worth rolling the dice on Mickey Mack. If he knows he can give a solid 15-20 minutes and then bring Jez on to do what Jez does, I think we should be all right.
I was going to say, Dave, Bazza mentioned about the hooker role there. Are you surprised Ben Hartl wasn't named in the squad? Of course, you've got Stephen Ratchford in there, who's a bit like a Swiss Army knife at the moment, isn't he? He can do a little bit of a job everywhere. But I have seen some Wire fan questioning Hartl's inclusion. Potentially, he should have been playing maybe instead of Jordan Crowther.
Yeah, I mean, Crowther's been preferred there, and I think what was interesting, I mean, before Geordie's injury actually, because Hartl was on the bench that day. What Hartl does is he speeds the ruck up. Geordie Crowther, don't get me wrong, he's a solid player. He's one of those unsung players that he'll come on, he'll give you his all, and he probably scores 8 out of 10 most weeks. That's Geordie Crowther. So this isn't no reflection on Geordie. I think he's got, he's a great squad player. He's very, very versatile. But in a game like this, especially, we know it's going to be a war of attrition down the middle, and we know that for both sides, after 25, 30 minutes, they're going to be blowing. Once you get to the 60 minutes marks, they're all blowing, whether they've been interchanged or not. That's just the reality of it. Even more so at Wembley, because of course the emotion of the occasion takes energy out your lungs as well. So we know that when we get into that last 20 minutes, it's game on. And somebody like a Benny Hartl at dummy half, with his speed, he's got electric pace. He'll take on the line. He'll create, openings for his, second row lead runners, whatever it may be. I was amazed he wasn't there, at the very least in the 21-man squad, just to give Willie Peters something to think about. But I think for me, I just hope that Warrington, because you're talking about Mickey Matt there, Warrington's got a couple of walking. We know Williams would appear. Williams is a gamble, but it's one they had to take. There's also Lachlan Fitzgibbon, who I think's injured. He went down terribly, holding his knee. Lasted the first half last week and then got took off. He carried an injury into Wembley last year, and it was his edge that leaked the first try to 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗃𝗂𝗃. So for me, my heart's going to sink tomorrow if I see Lachlan Fitzgibbon in the second round. I really am, because based on what I saw, that's more of a risk than perhaps Williams is. In terms of Mickey Matt, because of his injury, I'm really surprised, because because it was a muscle injury as opposed to a bone injury. So what we know about George Williams is he's done the chambers, he's done all of that to get the recovery right, all the rest of it. Muscle injuries are very different, and his lead time was another month. That's a big risk. You know, if he's a month ahead of schedule with a muscle injury, that is a big risk. So I completely agree with what Baz has said in terms of, you know, he's going to go on there, he's going to get in the faces, and in 20 minutes will be magnificent. And then on comes Jez Litton with his pace and dynamism from dummy R. But in games like this, Baz, where I understand what he's saying about what KR have done with interchanges recently. This is a cup final. For me, in a cup final, your interchanges are vital. You need all four, because you just do. And, you know, we saw last week, you know, St. Helens put Robertson on the bench because Wellesby was injured. That's crazy. You know, it's crazy. Why would you do that? You know, it's mad. But put Robertson in and tell your fans Wellesby's injured and crack on and get your bench as strong as possible, especially against KR. So for me, I think the interchanges are crucial. I think they're going to be very, very much so littered with forwards, and rightly so. It should be a great game. And for me, yeah, I'd want a little bit of pace. But the one player that nobody's mentioned yet is your fullback. I think if anybody wants a punt on an unexpected Lance Todd Trophy winner, it's Jack Broadbent. Broadbent, for me, is in phenomenal form. There's all this focus on all of the big players, and Jack's just going about his business. No matter where he's put, he's doing a job for you. And no wonder, and isn't it funny, maybe Willie Peters and the club think something similar, because it wasn't lost on me that when the 21-man squad come out, it was Mr. Broadbent that was pictured. I think he's critical for you. I think he could have a very good final.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. I think I called it on the final whistle. Is definitely worth an outside chance for man of the match. But again, it's going to be the conditions and whatnot. But it got mentioned yesterday.
You know what? Regardless of the conditions, I think you are going to see the Robins start off with a very basic style of rugby league. They're going to rely on players like Broadbent, Hiku, Davis to get the big meters. I mean, they're some of the best kick returners at the moment in Super League. I think you're going to see field position being absolutely key. I mean, Dave's right about Sneed, Williams, how they're going to try and kick us to death. It's going to be vice versa, and it'll be who comes out on top of that battle, especially in the opening 25, 30 minutes. You know, we saw what we did when we played St. Helens first time round this season, where for that opening 20 minutes, literally blew them away. And then after that, then you start seeing a bit of expansive rugby league. Then you see the Robins start coming. And then all of a sudden, what's been great about Rovers this season, Bazzer, is they don't just score one try. It's boom, boom, boom. And before you know it, we've gone 2-3 scores in front and the game's gone. You know, and that's where Rovers have been so good. But I really think that that's why I think, you know, Mickey Mack's probably integral to that. It's going to be a bit of a boring opening. Yeah, it's going to be. It ain't going to be. You know, thrill a minute, because the Robins will be trying to lay that platform down for potentially minute 50, minute 60. You know, where they think that. To be fair, Dave, I think the Robins will think that their fitness levels are so superior that as long as they stay within 4 points, 6 points of Warrington, whichever way that goes, Rovers will feel confident enough going into that last 30 minutes that they're fit enough and are fitter than Warrington, and I think that's where they'll look to blow Warrington away.
We don't, but I mean, and again, we don't know that. You know, we need to have the analytics to say that one way or the other. You know, Warrington against Lee, they were toe to toe. They had the energy and everything's there. I think, like I say, all bets are off. All bets are off at Wembley. Always will be. I think for me, you're right. That first opening 20 should. And do you know one thing I disagree with you, John? That's not boring. I loved the final last year. If you can have people watching chess, for crying out loud, then 20 minutes of tactical rugby is an absolute joy to watch. So anybody, finals can go one or two ways. Like I was very disappointed that last year's grand final was considered to be a poor one. It was a phenomenal tactical battle. And, for a rugby league purist, when you're sitting there watching two great sides, trying to find that little glitch in each other, and of course, it was a moment of magic that won it because there was so little given between the two. I walked away from that far happier than if one of those sides had won 36 points to 0. Because that's not a spectacle. So I think if you're right, and it is a 20, I would say to all Robins fans, to all the neutrals that are listening to your podcast and anybody else, enjoy your rugby league, get into the detail, actually look at the nuances of rugby. Look at the counting, look at the discipline in defence, look at how the lines are moving up. Because let me tell you now, this is what those boys are training for 5 days a week to accomplish. So if they accomplish great defence, that should be applauded. Yes, it's not as good as a silky broad bent try down the left-hand side. Have a bit of this, Joe, and then inside to Mikey and under the sticks he goes. Of course, everybody wants to see the flashy stuff. But sometimes good defence as a rugby league purist is something to celebrate. So no matter which one we get, let's celebrate whichever one we get, because both sides of the ball are as important as each other.
That's it, Bazza. And I mean, we're almost getting to the point where, like, the game's beyond talking about it now. Like, we're getting to the point where we need kick-off, because you can create so many scenarios in your head. What if this happens? What if he plays? What if he don't play? What if he goes after 20? Now we're getting to the point where you want to be on Wembley way. You want to soak up the atmosphere. You want to be mingling with other rugby league fans. You want to be with your supporters. You want to hear the singing, the chanting. You want to walk into Wembley. You want to see the amazing amphitheatre of rugby league. And just take that all in. Here, abide with me. See the players run out the tunnel, and then boom, we're ready for that hoot, and we're ready for the players to go bang out. That is what ultimately now we're at that point.
Yeah, we are, mate. Like you said, I don't think there's nothing else online that I can watch or overthink and read into details. We just need to get down to London, soak up the atmosphere, meet with friends, have a great day, and just enjoy everything about it, all the finer details. And yeah, I think I'm done talking about it now. I'm done thinking about it. It's giving me migraines. Yeah, it is. It's exhausting.
Just on, because before we wrap up, we had the privilege, Johno, of a lovely young lad called Oliver at Magic Weekend. Young Robins fan, probably listens to your podcast. And he's actually got his own spot now on our show. What would Oliver say? Every week he sends us a 1-minute video where he analyses a part of the game. He's only a kid. He's a lovely lad. Where he analyses a bit of the game and then he asks us for our opinion. He's a cracking kid. And the reason that we did that for him, and I just want to share this with your listeners, is he played for a local amateur side. And the morning of the Magic Weekend, I think he's 11. Let that sink in. His coach released him, saying he was never going to be a rugby league player at 11, right? And he was absolutely on the floor, and we lifted him up because that's what the rugby league family does. We have now given him a platform, and don't get me wrong, he will probably find a team that will embrace him. And what I'd like to say to your younger listeners before we finish is that we're older and we've never been able to fulfill maybe an ambition of ours when we were kids, and that is to run out at Wembley and play rugby league for our team. Matty Ashton plays for Warrington, came to the sport late, got picked up late. There's lots of players that came late. John Wilkins, another one, love him or hate him, he came late to the sport. So there's certain players where, it takes them a bit longer. But if you're of a certain age, if you're a young kid and you're walking down Wembley Way tomorrow, okay, statistically speaking, if you dedicate yourself to this great game of rugby league, you are more likely to walk out in a Challenge Cup final than in a football final. That's the reality. So my plea to all of you kids is to dream. When you're walking down Wembley Way tomorrow to watch your team, whether it be Warrington, whether it be KR, Wiggins, Saints, and this is boys and girls. Yeah. Dare to dream. As Rob Burrow said, dare to dream. Walk down there and just say, one day, this could be me walking out representing my club. And I wish you well with that. I genuinely do. Let's hope that one of your listeners today, in 15 years' time, gets hold of Johno and says, I listened to that podcast before KR played Warrington. And I walked down Wembley Way and I dared to dream. And tomorrow I represent whichever team in the Challenge Cup final. And that will have made this podcast worth listening to. Best of luck to KR. Best of luck to Warrington. May the best team win. And let's make sure that at the end of the day, we're all friends. We're one family in rugby league. We'll have a beer. And let me tell you, KR fans, as a Warrington fan, in 2009, I'd supported my team for a long time and never seen them lift a trophy. Nothing, and I mean nothing, takes away the memory of that win over Huddersfield. So in defeat tomorrow, what Super League Raw has given me, the community of Super League Raw has given me, is Hull KR friends. And I will share in their delight if they win, because I know how much it means to support a side for a long time with that belief and that hope, and then it turned into reality. So I will not be bitter. I will raise a glass with them to a great win. Obviously, I still want Warrington to win. But like I say, I'll make sure I celebrate with those Robin fans. And you kids out there, dare to dream. It's been a pleasure being on your podcast, Johno.
No problem. Bazza, make sure you take a Rover shirt with a spare one, because he's going to be, he'll be celebrating with us. Oh, is that where it starts? That's where it starts.
I've already got another Sh fan travelling down tomorrow in a KR shirt, so I'm quite happy with that. I don't think we'll get Dave in one.
I'll tell you what, Johno. I will never ever put a shirt on ever for somebody else's side, except on one occasion. When Rob Burrow passed and his kids did the Rob Burrow shirt with all their words on it and stuff, I bought one of them, and it just didn't sit right that it was a Leeds Rhinos badge, and I was wearing a Leeds Rhinos shirt, even though it was for the late, great Rob Burrow. I had Burrow 7 put on the back. So I got an embroiderer to sew a Warrington badge in the middle of the chest, just so I felt a bit better. And every time Leeds come to Warrington, out of respect for Rob Burrow, I wear a Leeds Rhino shirt in his honour. And that's the only rugby league shirt outside of Warrington that I will ever wear, sir. So, Bazza, keep your KR ones in your drawer, mate, because it'd be a waste of time.
I'll tell you what, Dave, just finished on then. You're right, mate, about creating dreams. One of the good things that the RFL have done is they're holding a festival on tomorrow morning at Gunnersbury. They've got under 9s, under 7s, under 8s, under 9s, under 10s, under 11s, all playing. They get to do a lap of honour before the main game. I'm actually coaching one of the sides tomorrow. So we've got a team of young kids coming down from Hull and from Beverley to play, but not only play, soak up the atmosphere. Many of them never been to Wembley for ever before. And not only are they going to get to watch a game there, they're going to get to walk around the pitch, you know, maybe shoulder to shoulder with some of their heroes. And it's going to be a memory of a lifetime for them, you know, regardless of the results. So, hey, sometimes the RFL don't get things always right, but sometimes they do, and you can't always knock them. So, guys, safe journey down to Wembley. I hope it is as good as we've talked about and hoped for. It is going to be a great occasion, as it always is in the Challenge Cup final. Hopefully the best team wins, and I'll leave that there. But for now, everyone who's been watching, listening to this has been the final Robin Pod of the week. So make sure, if this is the first one you're listening to, go back to the others, because they're all as good. And it's because of guests like Bazza and Dave who've made the Robin Pod so enjoyable this week. So take care, guys.
All the best.
Cheers, guys.
Singing a song when the red robin comes bobbing, when the red robin comes bobbing, when the red robin comes bobbing along.
The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are a reputable East Hull-based car specialist and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members.